You've probably been told your whole life that being kind is a virtue. That kindness makes the world better. That good people help, forgive, listen, give. And you believed it, because deep down you're a good person. You care. You want to make others feel safe, loved, accepted, and so you give your time, your energy, your heart. You stretch yourself for others again and again. But here's a quiet truth no one really says out loud. Kindness, when given without boundaries, can quietly ruin your life. Not in loud, dramatic ways, but slowly, invisibly. Piece by piece, you start to feel tired, but you don't know why. You begin to lose your voice, but you still smile. You give everything, and yet somehow it's never enough. I'm not saying kindness is wrong. Far from it. Stoicism honors kindness, but only when it comes from strength, from clarity, from a place that doesn't abandon the self just to please the world. The Stoics believed in living in harmony with nature, not just nature outside, but your own inner nature. And when your kindness constantly ignores what you need, when it silences your truth just to avoid conflict, when it allows others to cross lines they shouldn't, that's no longer virtue. That's quiet self-betrayal. In this video, we're going to explore something we don't talk about enough. The 7 ways kindness can secretly ruin your life, not to make you bitter, but to help you become better, wiser, stronger, and more honest with yourself. Because true kindness starts with truth, and real strength begins when you stop abandoning yourself in the name of being good. So take a breath. Let's have an honest conversation. Not to harden your heart, but to teach it how to stay open without getting lost. Let's begin. Part 1. When kindness becomes self-betrayal, you want to be a good person. You want to be kind, generous, understanding. You want to be the one others can count on. And for a while, it feels right. You help, you listen, you show up. And it gives you a sense of meaning. But then, slowly, something shifts. You start saying yes when your body says no. You start apologizing just to keep the peace, even when you did nothing wrong. You begin shrinking your needs, your boundaries, your truth, just so someone else can stay comfortable. And at first, you call it compassion. You call it maturity. You tell yourself, I can handle this. It's not a big deal. But somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice begins to whisper. And that voice says, you're disappearing because you are. Not all at once, but in little ways, with every smile that hides your discomfort. With every favor you say yes to, while silently resenting it. With every time you let someone cross your boundaries, just to avoid being difficult. This is not kindness. This is self-betrayal. You're not being kind and you're abandoning yourself. And the worst part is, no one sees it. They keep thanking you, praising you, calling you so nice. They don't see the cost. But you do. You feel the exhaustion. You feel the weight of unspoken words. You feel how hard it's become just to breathe deeply in your own skin. The Stoics taught that you must live in accordance with reason, not just reason as logic, but reason as clarity. That you must honor your nature, your truth, your sense of what is right. And if your kindness requires you to silence your truth, If your kindness becomes a mask you wear to be accepted, if your kindness is rooted in fear of rejection, then it's not kindness. It's survival. It's fear dressed in soft words. But you are not here to survive. You are here to live, fully, honestly, freely. You can be kind without betraying yourself. You can be generous without being a doormat. You can be compassionate and still say no. In fact, you must. Because every time you betray yourself to please someone else, you teach your soul that it doesn't matter, and you're too sacred, too worthy to be dismissed like that. Kindness must begin with you. It must include you. It must honor you. There is a kind of strength that comes from softness, but only when that softness is rooted in truth, in self-respect, in the quiet knowing that you matter too. So, I want to ask you something, and answer honestly. When was the last time your kindness left you feeling empty? When was the last time you agreed to something and felt your stomach twist afterward? When was the last time you smiled just to hide the storm inside you? You don't have to keep doing that. You don't have to betray yourself just to belong. You don't have to be the good one if it means carrying everyone's weight but your own. Being kind doesn't mean being silent. Being kind doesn't mean being small. It means being true to yourself, to what you value, to the life you're meant to live, not just for others, but for you. This is not about becoming hard. It's about becoming whole. And it starts the moment you stop calling self-abandonment kindness. So if something inside you stirred while hearing this, listen. That voice is not weakness. That's your strength waking up. That's your truth asking to be heard. And that is where real kindness begins. Part 2. The trap of being needed. There is a strange kind of comfort in being needed. It makes you feel important, valuable, like you matter in a world that often feels so uncertain. You become the one people turn to, the reliable one, the one who never says no. And for a time that feels like love. It feels like worth. But slowly, it becomes a weight. You start noticing how often you're the one fixing things, how your phone only rings when someone wants something, how being the strong one means no one ever asks if you're okay. And the part of you that longs to rest, to simply be, it gets buried under the pressure to always show up, to always say yes, to always be enough for everyone else. It's subtle, this trap, because it doesn't feel like a trap at first. It feels like purpose. It feels like you're doing the right thing. But if you look closer, really closer, you'll start to see the cost. You'll see how often your needs get delayed, how your dreams are always put on hold, how you've slowly become defined by what you give, not by who you are. And maybe, if you're honest, there's a part of you that fears what would happen if you stopped being useful. Would people still stay? Would they still love you if you weren't fixing their problems? That fear runs deep, because somewhere along the way you learned that love must be earned, that your value is tied to your utility, that being needed is the closest you can get to being wanted. But that's not love. That's dependency. That's control wearing the mask of appreciation. You were not born to be someone's emotional crutch. You were not meant to carry other people's chaos just to feel seen. Your life is not a service contract. The Stoics would tell you, your first duty is to your own soul. to live with virtue, to act with integrity, to honor your own reason and boundaries. And if your need to be needed causes you to abandon your principles, your peace, your time, that is not strength. That is slavery. There is no wisdom in burning yourself out so that others may shine. There is no honor in being everything to everyone and nothing to yourself. You have a right to rest. You have a right to choose who and what deserves your energy. You have a right to say, I am not available for that, without guilt or explanation. Because love built on need is not love, it's survival. And survival is not the life you were made for. You are allowed to be wanted for who you are, not just what you do. You are allowed to disappoint others if it means being honest with yourself. You are allowed to outgrow the role of the rescuer. You don't have to prove your worth by how much you carry. You're already worthy, even when you rest, even when you say no, even when you are not needed by anyone. So let go of the trap. Let go of the praise that comes at the cost of your peace. Let go of the illusion that you must always be useful to be loved. You are not here to be used. You are here to live, and that is more than enough. This is your permission to reclaim your life, not by being everything for others, but by being true to yourself. Part 3. Kindness as a cover for fear. Sometimes, what looks like kindness on the outside is fear on the inside. Not a gentle, warm kind of fear, but the quiet, hidden kind. The one that whispers, if you upset them, they might leave. You smile. You nod. You agree, even when it burns inside. Even when every part of you wants to speak up or walk away or say no, but instead, you please, you accommodate. You soften your voice and shrink your truth, not because you are kind, but because you are scared. Scared of confrontation, scared of being misunderstood, scared of being seen as too much or not enough. And so you wear kindness like a shield, not as a gift, but as a defense. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're just human, shaped by moments where it felt dangerous to be honest, where saying what you really felt was met with punishment, silence, or rejection. So now you tell yourself being kind is better, that it's mature, that you're keeping the peace. But let's be honest, it's not peace if it costs your voice. It's not kindness if it erases you. Kindness is powerful when it's a choice. But when it's a disguise for fear, it becomes a cage, a silent prison you carry with a smile on your face. The truth is, you don't owe anyone your silence just to keep them comfortable. You don't have to sacrifice your needs in order to seem easy to love. You don't have to be agreeable to be accepted. You are not here to avoid every wave. You're here to stand in your truth, even when the water gets rough, even when someone else doesn't like it. The Stoics taught that courage is a virtue, that fear, when left unexamined, becomes the silent master of your life. And too often, what you call being nice is really just fear of being disliked. But think about this. If someone only likes you when you agree with them, only respects you when you stay small, only stays close when you never challenge them, do they love you? Or the version of you that never dares to be real? You deserve relationships that can hold your truth. You deserve to show up fully, even when you're not accommodating, even when you're not easy, even when you say, "This is not okay with me." Kindness rooted in fear is not kindness. It's survival. And you're not here to survive. You're here to live, to speak, to grow. Let your kindness come from strength. Let it be the kind that chooses to be soft, not the kind that's afraid to be strong. Let it be the kind that honors others and yourself. You don't have to be afraid of not being liked, because once you start liking yourself, truly, deeply, and without apology, you'll stop trading authenticity for approval. And that, right there, is where your power begins. Part 4. Giving without measure. There's something beautiful about your willingness to give, to show up, to offer your time, your energy, your heart, without hesitation. But let me ask you something quietly. When was the last time you gave to yourself? It's easy to lose track. You give because you care, because someone needs you, because it feels good to be the one others turn to, because being needed makes you feel worthy. And yet, over time, something begins to shift. You start to notice a heaviness, not loud, but persistent. A quiet fatigue that no one sees, because you're still smiling, still showing up, still giving. But inside you feel drained, invisible, forgotten, even by yourself. This is the danger of giving without measure. It slowly teaches you that your worth only exists in what you offer. That love is something you earn, not something you are. And that if you ever stop giving, maybe you'll stop mattering. But that's not true. It never was. The Stoics believed in balance, in living with reason, not impulse. And when your kindness becomes a compulsion, a reflex, you're no longer choosing it. You're just surviving through it. You were not meant to carry the world on your shoulders. You were meant to walk beside it, whole, present, and grounded, not constantly emptying yourself for the comfort of others. You don't have to prove your goodness through exhaustion. You don't need to bleed emotionally just to feel needed. And you don't owe your time or energy to anyone who only shows up when they need something from you. Your heart is generous. But even generosity has a rhythm. Even the ocean pulls back between waves. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to ask yourself, is this giving me life, or is it draining it? True kindness honors both others and yourself. It says, I will help where I can, but I will not abandon me in the process. It says, I give because I choose to, not because I'm afraid of what will happen if I don't. There's courage in restraint, in boundaries, in saying, I love you, but I need space, or I care, but I can't do this right now. You're not selfish for protecting your peace. You're not cold for choosing your well-being. You're simply learning that your energy is sacred, and not everything deserves it. Kindness is not the same as sacrifice. And being a good person doesn't mean being endlessly available. You matter, not because of how much you give, but because of who you are, even when you give nothing at all. So breathe, slow down, and let yourself be whole, not just useful. Let your kindness have boundaries. Let it serve you too. Because the most powerful kindness is the kind that comes from fullness, not from depletion. Part 5. Being kind to the wrong people. There's a certain ache that only you understand. The one that comes from giving your kindness to someone who never really saw it. who took it, used it, and never thought to give it back. You didn't ask for much. You were patient. You made excuses. You believed that if you just showed more love, more loyalty, more forgiveness, they would change. But they didn't. And deep down, you knew. Still, you stayed. Not because you were weak, but because your heart is strong. So strong that it wanted to carry what was never yours to hold. There's nothing wrong with being kind. The problem is when your kindness becomes currency, a desperate trade, hoping that maybe, just maybe, someone will finally value you if you give enough. But not everyone deserves the softness you bring. Not everyone knows how to hold something that pure without breaking it. And yet, you've kept giving, not because they earned it, but because you didn't want to become like them. Because you told yourself that being kind, even when it hurts, means you're the better person. But here's the truth. Kindness that costs you your peace isn't noble. It's self-neglect in disguise. The Stoics spoke of discernment, of choosing your actions with intention. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life. And not every relationship deserves your effort. You may feel guilt when you walk away, like you're giving up too soon. But you're not giving up. You're waking up. You're realizing that not all love is love. Some of it is control. Some of it is convenience. And some of it is simply what you were taught to accept because you didn't yet know your worth. But you know now. You feel it, quietly. In the parts of you that are tired of pretending. Tired of waiting for someone to meet you where you've always been willing to go. You don't need to stay where you're only tolerated. You don't need to shrink just to keep someone else comfortable. And you certainly don't need to prove your worth by loving people who don't know how to love you back. You are allowed to protect your softness. You are allowed to set boundaries, not out of anger, but out of love for yourself. You are allowed to choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and distance over damage. Being kind to the wrong people doesn't make you foolish. It means you had hope. It means you believed in the possibility of goodness, even when it wasn't returned. But now it's time to believe in your goodness. To stop pouring your light into places that only dim it. To stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You don't have to become hard to protect yourself. You just have to become wise. So be kind, but be kind with clarity, with limits, with eyes wide open. Because the right people, the ones who truly see you, will never ask you to destroy yourself to keep their love. Let them go, not with bitterness, but with grace, and turn that kindness inward. You've earned it, and you always have. Part 6. Kindness that enables weakness. You've always believed that helping someone is an act of love. And it is, but not every act of help leads to healing. Sometimes your kindness becomes a quiet permission for others to remain small. You've seen it, those moments when you step in again and again because you don't want to see someone fall. So you catch them, even when they stop trying to stand. Even when they lean on you so much, you start forgetting what it feels like to stand for yourself. You're not foolish for caring. You're not wrong for loving deeply. But there's a fine line between support and surrender. And sometimes, your kindness turns into a crutch. One that keeps someone else from growing, from learning, from rising. Because growth is uncomfortable. It comes with pain, mistakes, and responsibility. And when you constantly shield others from that discomfort, you rob them of the very thing that could make them stronger. It's not easy to watch someone struggle, especially when you know you have the power to make it easier. But ask yourself this: are you truly helping, or are you just making sure they never have to help themselves? There's a kind of love that lifts, and there's a kind of love that quietly traps. Not out of malice, but out of fear. The fear that if you stop giving, you'll stop being needed. That if you let them fall, they might break, and so you break yourself instead, just to keep them whole. But here's what the Stoics would ask you: what is the nature of your kindness? Is it rooted in strength, or in fear of what might happen if you say no? You see, kindness isn't just about being soft. It's about being wise. It's about knowing when to hold someone's hand and when to let go so they can learn to walk. You are not their savior. You are not their solution. You are not the answer to the questions they refuse to face. Letting someone struggle isn't cruel. It's courageous. Because it takes strength to trust that people can find their own way, that they can rise, even without you pulling them up every time. And maybe that's the deeper kindness. The one that says, I believe in you enough to let you figure it out. The one that sets boundaries, not as walls, but as invitations for others to step into their own power. It's okay to stop overextending. It's okay to say, I love you, but I won't carry this for you anymore. That doesn't make you unkind. It makes you conscious. And when you turn that same kindness inward, when you protect your energy, your time, your peace, you show others that strength isn't found in rescuing. It's found in respecting yourself enough to stop bleeding for people who won't heal. So let your kindness be fierce. Let it be a mirror, not a shield. Let it be a space where others are challenged to grow, not a shelter where their weakness is made to feel comfortable. You are not here to carry everyone. You are here to rise, and to rise honestly. And sometimes that means stepping back, so someone else can finally step up. Part 7. Losing your truth to keep the peace. You've swallowed your words more times than you can count, not because you had nothing to say, but because you believed silence would keep the peace. You chose harmony over honesty, and for a while, it felt like the right thing to do. You told yourself, it's not worth the argument. You nodded, smiled, agreed, not because you truly agreed, but because you didn't want to shake the room. You didn't want to become the one who makes things uncomfortable. But inside, you felt it. The quiet sting of self-abandonment. The ache that comes when your truth has no place to live. When your voice is present, but always paused. You may have kept the peace around you, but you lost the one within. And the truth is, keeping the peace by betraying your truth isn't peace at all. It's tension dressed in calm. It's fear dressed as kindness. It's you, disappearing slowly, one silence at a time. You don't have to raise your voice to be heard. You don't have to argue to be strong, but you do need to stop hiding. Because your truth matters, even if it shakes the air, even if it makes people uncomfortable, even if it causes waves. Peace that requires your silence isn't peace, it's control. And you deserve more than that. You deserve relationships where your truth is welcome, not tolerated, where you can speak with courage, not walk on eggshells to protect fragile egos. The Stoics spoke of inner freedom, the kind that can only exist when your soul and your speech are in harmony, when what you feel is not caged inside but honored, with dignity and clarity. So what are you protecting by staying silent? And at what cost? There is a way to speak truth without cruelty, a way to honor your values without destroying the bridge. But sometimes, that bridge must burn, especially if it only leads to more self-denial. You were not born to be agreeable. You were not made to bend yourself in every direction just to be accepted. You are allowed to say, "That's not okay with me." You are allowed to stand your ground without feeling like you're causing harm by simply existing fully. Real peace begins when you stop lying to yourself. When you no longer pretend that silence is safer than speaking what your heart knows is right. Your truth may not always be welcomed, but it will always be yours. And in that truth is where your power lives. Not in being liked, not in being polite, but in being real. You don't need to fight. You just need to stop fading. And when you begin to speak, gently, clearly, steadily, you'll notice something shift. Not just in others, but in yourself. You'll feel your spine straighten, your breath deepen, your soul come home. So stop losing yourself to keep things calm. Your presence is not the problem. Your truth is not too much, and your peace should never cost your voice. Conclusion: kindness is not weakness. It is not silence. It is not self-sacrifice that leaves you empty. Real kindness begins when you are kind to yourself first, when your truth is not silenced to keep others comfortable. You are not here to please everyone. You are here to live with clarity, with presence, with quiet strength. So if your kindness has turned into a mask, if it has become a habit of shrinking, of hiding, of breaking your own heart to keep the peace, then maybe it's time to pause, to breathe, and to remember who you are beneath the performance. You can be kind and firm. You can be gentle and still speak your truth. You can love without losing yourself. The world doesn't need more people who fake peace. It needs more people like you, who are brave enough to live in truth, to draw lines not from anger, but from self-respect, to give love without measuring, but never at the cost of your soul. Let your kindness be a light, not a leash. You are not selfish for choosing honesty. You are not unkind for walking away from what hurts. You are growing. You are waking up. And this is your time to return to yourself. Speak kindly. Stand firmly. Live deeply. And if this message stirred something in you, share it. With someone who's been too kind to the wrong people for too long, with someone who needs to be reminded that their truth still matters. And if that person is you, then let this be your turning point. You're not alone, and your story is only just beginning.